Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Pete, it's a new week, a new episode, Films and Stuff coming to you. What do we have today? We both know it, but I want to hear you say it out loud. What do we got?
The Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness, Ethan.
I can't quite get used to the Multiverse of Madness part, but Doctor Strange 2, yes. So
yeah, but somehow Mom is appropriate, is it not? Given the movie?
Doctor Strange Mom. So a few things. We both saw it. This just came out. You just saw it yesterday, matinee style in London. I saw it late night style in Dubai. What was the turnout for you? Was it packed? Not packed? People dressed up?
No.
What was it like?
It was relatively quiet. I choose to go to the earlier shows for these quote-unquote tentpole films.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, it leads me to have more room for myself. It's quieter. What's interesting is that I didn't take into account the fact that because it's a matinee, children were there. Like some dad decided that it would be a good idea for him to bring like 5 or 6 kids. I guess like he was babysitting for a bunch of different people. And I don't know how appropriate this movie is for a bunch of kids. And when I say kids, I don't mean like, I'm being, semi-condescending and calling like a 20-year-old a kid. No. I mean like 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old children.
Okay. So what was the mood like? Everyone was like super excited. Was it a big thing, or everyone was just kind of like, let's go see it. It's the newest film.
So I think I was the most excited in the cinema.
No surprise there. No surprise there.
Yeah. And what's weird is that nobody or very few people stayed back to see the post-credits or mid-credits and post-credit scenes.
Bravo for them. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. They would have been disappointed. Yeah.
So why don't we break this down? Before we go into a recap, what did you think of the movie?
So I have to say, I was actually pretty excited about it. I mean, I love the original Doctor Strange, and he's obviously been in several films, subsequent to that, I guess for the last 5 years or so. So I was actually pretty excited about this, and I have to say, I walked away pretty impressed. I don't think it's an all-time great Marvel film. It's not Ragnarok to me, but I have to say, like, I walked away saying, that's a pretty good job. I've got some. I mean, if we're going to the next step, which is talking about the future of the universe, then I've got some qualms and quibbles and comments and stuff. But I have to say, this film, it pretty much met the hype for me. I'm happy with it.
Interesting. So I don't know, maybe there's something in the air in London the last week. Maybe it's something in the water. But this just capped off another week of relative disappointment for me.
Wah, wah.
Starting with Moon Knight, of course, continuing with Halo.
Pete, man.
I was
stomach punch after stomach punch.
Honestly, and it's like a self-inflicted gut punch, It's not anybody else's fault, but maybe, I don't know. I wasn't thrilled with the film.
Really?
Yeah, there were moments of it, but I walked out of the cinema confused.
Oh.
And not in a good way. Not confused like, I wonder what's going to happen next. Not excited. I was just like, okay. Well, I guess that's done.
Superhero fatigue. Listen to our latest debate. Superhero fatigue.
For the love of God,
right?
This is not superhero fatigue. This is superhero criticism.
All right. So
I was quite disappointed.
Do you want to tell, I mean, going to a recap, I think it's a little bit complicated just because there's so much stuff. But
Oh yeah, that's true.
But do you want to just summarize exactly what is kind of the plot and the outcome? Maybe we just kind of summarize it there.
And actually, you raised a really good point yesterday before you saw the movie and after I had seen the movie. In that brief window, you actually sent me a great article.
I did.
Which was basically homework / prep for Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
And I think the purpose of the article was to say, hey, if you really want to get the most out of this movie, you should watch these movies and or TV series to get the most out of it. You don't have to, but really it would be helpful for you.
You know, I agree. I never saw all of WandaVision.
Yeah.
I know you did. And WandaVision is pretty important to understanding not the plot, but the motivations behind Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, right? That
I fully agree.
It's it's not so much plot, but to really understand her and her mindset, that's critical.
And to a lesser extent, plot as well.
Yeah.
I think if you didn't see WandaVision at all and didn't even know what it was, you'd be kind of surprised at the heel turn that eventually takes place. And by eventually, I mean that immediately takes place.
At least you need a friend like Pete that can tell you, hey, you didn't see WandaVision, this is what it's about, and give you kind of the 60-second recap. I know you're smirking. This is a podcast.
Everyone needs a friend like Pete.
This is a podcast, but your smirk is coming off in high definition. But it's true. You need someone who's seen WandaVision who can say, hey, it's okay if you didn't see it. This is what happens. And then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And then you see Wanda Maximoff in Doctor Strange 2 Mom. And you're like, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think WandaVision is, if not a must-watch, it is at least a must-understand to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And Doctor Strange 1, of course.
Obviously.
It's the
the namesake.
Direct prequel
The namesake.
To it. So, yeah. So you should watch
and
that.
Spider-Man's. And you've got to see Spider-Man.
Yeah, which, I mean, most people will have anyway. But yes, I would suggest that, watching a little bit of Spider-Man, at least to understand the or to at least, to get the implications of the multiverse as it exists.
Yeah.
Anything else you think we should be watching?
There's a lot. There's a lot of references here. I mean,
but none that refer specifically to TV shows or to movies.
But there's
more to the comics.
Yeah, I don't want to say they're Easter eggs. They're more than that. They're people, and if you
extended cameos that I wasn't happy with. Sorry, I can't help myself. I can't help myself.
Okay, so with that in mind, we know that you should have seen if your let's call them like prerequisites, kind of like when you're in university, right? And you say like, okay, these are the classes you have to have taken.
Yeah,
if you want to
take these classes,
right?
Exactly.
You've got to have seen the original Strange. You've got to have seen some Spider-Man. You should highly recommended see or know about WandaVision. Obviously Endgame 1 and 2. If you've done that, then you're probably fit for purpose. You can sit in this movie and you don't have to be leaning over to the person next to you saying, who is that? What is that? Why is that? Right?
Yes. I mean, the optimal position would be if you also understood and knew the comics, then you'd be in great shape. But, the MCU wasn't really built around that. A lot of these cameos that they throw in and a lot of references they throw in are really exclusively for those guys who are like sweaty comic book nerds.
Yeah. Why sweaty? Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. Like they
living in the South.
I'm one of them.
Living in the South.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, getting that out of the way, I think I'm going to give you a very brief recap because there's actually quite a fair bit I want to talk about in this movie.
Yeah.
But the briefest of recaps is that Doctor Strange encounters another superpowered being.
Yes.
Who can travel through multiverses.
Yes.
On her own. That's her superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the only one in all of the different multiverses that can do this. And she knows this because she can't dream. And apparently our dreams are the realities of ourselves in other multiverses.
Which I think is mind-bending. And also, she says she's never met herself in another universe or multiverse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So those are the two giveaways.
So you meet a very, very important character. Her name is America Chavez.
America.
I cannot for the life of me pronounce her first name, her real life name. I think it starts with an X. I don't even want to try. Very young actress. I think she's only 16 years old. Zatachil or whatever it is. I apologize. Gomez, is that right?
Gomez is correct.
Yeah. She is pretty much the instrumental figure in this movie. She is what I would consider, she's the human equivalent of the MacGuffin in this movie.
True.
She drives the plot forward. She is the thing that everyone is chasing after. And we quickly learn that Wanda Maximoff, or the Scarlet Witch, has turned evil and she wants to grab America and absorb America's powers. And the reason she wants to do that is so that she can go to other multiverses, to the other universes in our multiverse. Because in this current world, which is classified as Earth 616, which is a great throwback to the comics because that is correct in the comics as well.
Mm-hmm.
So our reality that the MCU exists in that we know of is Earth 616, and she wants to leave this universe and go to another one where her children are still alive, even though they never existed in this universe. And because she dreams of them every night and she wants to be with them, and she had a traumatic experience, obviously. She made up these children in this universe, and then it was pulled away from her because, she had enslaved this town. Again, this is all WandaVision backstory. Anyway, irrelevant. So Doctor Strange from our universe has a fight with Wanda from our universe, and that fight extends into multiple other universes in the multiverse, which, that leads us to get some really trippy visuals. It's cool. We get to one universe where Doctor Strange is dead. We find out that he's dead saving the world from Thanos, but we find out it's not that. He's dead because his group of allies kill him, and he sacrifices himself, because by traveling to other universes, what happens is the two universes get closer and closer until they collide. Right? It's called an incursion, and we're getting into the sweaty nerd details of this. But the idea is that the more you spend time in another universe that you're not meant to be in while you're, visiting, the more that universe gets pulled into yours, and vice versa, and that collision leads people to die, and it's just a bad thing overall. He manages to escape Wanda. He manages to...
So essentially, Wanda Maximoff is able somehow to travel then to the other multiverse where Strange has traveled with America Chavez, and they basically kind of fight through her own localized proxy, right?
Correct. And so... regardless, I mean, they're all after something. She's after America Chavez so that she can get her powers. He's trying to do everything he can to stop her and to protect America Chavez. There's a massive multiversal battle. He meets himself in another universe who's evil and has become corrupted by this magic book, which Wanda has in our universe. And there's another battle there. So they fight. So Doctor Strange doesn't just fight Wanda, but he's fighting himself. He comes out victorious, and he ends up back in our universe in a third version of Doctor Strange. They fight with Wanda. Then with America's help, she is able to help convert Wanda back to, let's say, sanity, because she's apparently lost her marbles.
Back to 616.
By showing her what her children see her as now. And her children think of her as a monster because she's lost her mind and she's killing everyone. And so that kind of snaps her out of her evil funk. she comes back to our universe and she destroys this special building that's the embodiment of this evil book or this evil witchcraft source of power. And that's kind of where the movie more or less ends until you get to the post-credit scene. You learn that, by the way, because Doctor Strange had interacted with the evil Doctor Strange, he is now corrupted as well, and he grows a third eye. Yeah. And then that's it, really. I mean, we're getting into the weeds of the post-credit scenes and the mid-credit scenes. But I just thought the whole movie... So that's where we are.
That's a summary. And the summary is, again, there's a lot to take in because you are traveling between worlds. And obviously there's the same character, Doctor Strange, as it were, but there's multiple different versions of him, each kind of a little bit better, a little bit worse, a little bit more arrogant, and a little bit more, whatever. So everything's resolved in the end. We're back to normal. We have lost Wanda Maximoff from our current Earth, 616. And Doctor Strange, as you mentioned, is now kind of corrupted. We don't know if it's good corrupted or bad corrupted. Or I should say, we don't know if he's corrupted bad or if he's kind of enhanced, but obviously he's different now. And that's kind of where things end, although obviously there's a little teaser that this is going to continue on in other multiverses for the foreseeable future.
Sure.
So everyone walks away kind of, although we've obviously lost Wanda Maximoff from this lifetime.
Actually, I don't think we have, by the way.
Oh.
I don't think we have, because as the building came crushing on top of her, you see a red, ball, like puff ball. So it could... Look, for all intents and purposes, she is dead, but I think they did that just as a way that if they ever want to bring her back, they can.
Okay. So tell me what you liked and what you did not like about this movie. Give me some likes, first of all.
All right, yeah, let's do the likes.
Let's be optimistic.
This list is less critical. Yeah. Like Doctor Strange 1, if you have seen it, I have never done drugs in my life. However, watching Doctor Strange 1...
This is still films and stuff you've turned into. It's not...
No.
Not Confessions by Pete.
This isn't Confessions of the... or anything like that. However, I will say that having watched Doctor Strange 1 and now Doctor Strange 2, I feel like I visually understand what happens if you take acid.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Strong statement.
Some of the visuals are super trippy. Yeah. Like when they're going through the different universes, one of them is where they're all paint. It's all it's the...
No food.
And kudos to the artists, kudos to the, visual effects guys and that team. They have managed to portray something unique that I've never seen anywhere and something that I would never even have imagined of thinking of. That's what I mean by saying that, it's kind of like a visualization of what it feels like to take acid. It's unbelievable, the mirror universe, all the effects and that's not even including all the stuff, the visual effects they do when they're fighting. I mean, it literally is the madness of the multiverse. So I really liked that. I thought that was great. I really liked Ms. Gomez, America Chavez. I'm going to call her America Chavez just because I know that her name. Again, not sure what the actor's name is, but I thought she was very good.
Okay.
I really liked her. I thought she, considering her age and considering she's now, I think they've set her up to be one of the more important elements of the Marvel universe going forward.
She's coming, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think there's any way to get around that. I think she's going to be a mainstay of it. I must say, I liked Wanda as the bad guy.
Yeah.
When she's being evil, she's being really evil.
I have to say,
she's absolutely kicking ass.
I have to say, it was the swan song for Elizabeth Olsen. I mean, if this is the last time, I assume it's not, but if this is the last time we ever really see her as Wanda Maximoff, she finally got some good billing in a movie, and she really embraced being a bad guy, a villain, right? Like she really embraced it.
And while her motivation was relatively not weak, I don't want to say weak. I mean, I'm empathetic. I'm sympathetic, but she did everything that she could and more with what she was given.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I really did like that. I thought she was very good. I have to say, I kind of like the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch is now kind of like he's taken the mantle of the elder spokesperson in the MCU. You know, before that role, I think, was firmly Robert Downey Jr. and Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I think his character was kind of like the godfather of the first 3 or 4 phases. Everything kind of revolved around him. Everything happened because of him, good or bad, right? And even in Captain America, really, it was Tony Stark's father that was involved in helping him become that. So I kind of like that Cumberbatch has taken that mantle. Whether he accepts it or not is different, but I think he's... In terms of his acting chops, I think he's a great actor. In terms of his role, I like it. I don't know. There's something I like that he's kind of stepped up to the plate. If you look at all the other movies that are on tap, if you look at all the other actors that are available, none of them, I think, would qualify to really lead the MCU going forward, at least in this phase.
Yeah.
And I think Benedict Cumberbatch fills those shoes very nicely.
He's also, Tony Stark also went a little bit rogue. He was absolutely kind of the spiritual leader, of the Avengers, but he was always kind of to the beat of his own drummer, and he was always a little bit rogue. And we see that with Doctor Strange as well. When he travels to the other universes, there's a lot of criticism of him, which is you always think you're the smartest guy in the room, and the last time you did this, you basically destroyed an entire universe, because of your hubris, because you thought you knew how to do everything, and you just have to learn to be a better teammate. It's a lot of the same criticisms kind of heaped on Tony Stark, early on in the Iron Man series.
That's right.
And there's a lot more to come there. And Doctor Strange has, I think, a much more instrumental role to play. And if you think back to Spider-Man, Close to Home, right? I mean, he kind of mucked that whole thing up, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a little bit of help from
Peter Parker,
Tom Holland. From Tom Holland in that, right?
I mean, I read a criticism, and I think you did as well, which is, the entire crux of No Way Home was Peter Parker wanted to get into university with his friends, and he basically enlisted a sorcerer to brainwash the entire world just to be his admissions counselor. And a lot of that is true, which is, you kind of expect Doctor Strange to exercise a little bit more pragmatism. And that's one of the criticisms that Rachel McAdams, right, had against him as well.
You always have to be the one holding the knife.
You've always got to be the one holding the knife. You've always got to think that you're this incredibly talented surgeon, and you can fix the problem that no one else, is willing to touch. And usually, yes, you can. But when you fail spectacularly. Yeah. And a lot of this is because of, what we've seen in Close to Home, and now, although this episode isn't necessarily his fault, nothing he's done seems to have been his fault. Obviously, there's a lot of blame heaped on him,
Yeah. I think one of the last things that I really liked about this movie, and tell me if you agree with this, this movie was like a low-key horror movie.
I mean, I've seen that written, although had no one ever said that, I don't really think I would say that. I mean, yes, you can say that, Wanda was kind of like chasing some people, and there were like those little elements of, someone like a slasher film where she's got blood on her face and she's stomping after people.
Man.
But
that scene when they're chased in the water tunnel, and then that scene where he fights himself in that haunted mansion-esque place at the where he has to get the Darkhold. Oh man, I don't know. I got the feeling that he was quite the. You could tell that there were definitely Sam Raimi's fingerprints all over this, right? And including obviously Bruce Campbell's cameo in their movie.
Who's Bruce Campbell?
So I don't know.
Who's Bruce Campbell?
He is the guy who was selling the pizza poppers.
Oh, I didn't know him.
Yeah, he's oh my god, where he gets his hand replaced with a chainsaw. Army of Darkness, maybe?
Yeah, Army of
Not
Darkness.
Dead. Army of Darkness. There you go. Yeah, that's the one.
So I mean, I think. So, what didn't you like about this movie? I mean, because you mentioned some really important, good themes. What were the problems?
All right. So first, I think the movie was a little long.
2 hours?
I think it was
2:10.
I felt like this movie could have lost that. Okay, so while it was important
compared
for them
to Batman, I felt like this was just like.
Oh yeah, look, it was easy. You didn't need to take a bathroom break in the middle of it. It was fine. But no, I mean, like, for example, the Christine Palmer subplot, where he's got this undying love for his ex-girlfriend, and, she was the one who calls him out on it. I think it's very important that she's the one who calls him out on it. But two things. One, despite her calling him out on it and him kind of resolving his feelings for her at the end of this movie, he doesn't really learn from it at the end of this movie, right? Or at least I don't get the feeling that he really moved on and learned from it. And that love plot thing, the wedding in the beginning and then that whole sequence in the end, I didn't think it was necessary.
Yeah.
I think you could have saved like 10, 15 minutes of the movie from there.
Yeah.
The second thing was, and actually maybe the most...
Can I just put some life advice? I just want to put some life advice.
Yes.
I mean, he should have never been invited to her wedding. Yeah? Forget this, we can still be friends. She should have never...
Oh, I thought you were giving me life advice.
Well, I mean, this may be applicable to you. Christine never should have invited Strange to her wedding, first of all. I mean, that's just...
And he should never have gone, right?
2, he should never have gone. And 3, if you're gonna go, just say, hey, congratulations, move on. There's no reason to start a conversation about, hey, how come it didn't work between us? Like, that's really a shitty way to screw up someone's wedding, is to start a dark conversation like that. Yeah. So I have to say, I see like 3 party fouls there. She should not invite him. He should not have accepted. And I don't see why he would have accepted. He's always like so arrogant and stuff. I feel like he would have blown that off. And 3, if you must go, don't start that conversation. That's not cool.
Right.
That's my life advice.
So, and I'll take that on board. And so should you, all listeners.
I'll take that on board. All right. Thank you.
So there's 2 things that I think really weren't great about this movie.
All right.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the cameos.
Oh, I didn't know that was I didn't know that was the elephant in the room. Okay. Let's talk about those cameos.
Okay, so first of all, as you rightly kind of pointed out, they're not really cameos because they were there for quite a significant amount of time on screen.
Yeah.
I thought I would be more excited to see everyone on screen than I actually was. And I think it's because they kind of wore out their welcome. So Fantastic Four, Reed Richards now officially introduced to the MCU.
Yep.
You've got John Krasinski playing Reed Richards.
So can I make a comment after you introduce each of these people? I like John Krasinski and his very full beard in this movie. I was wondering why he was walking so weird, and then I realized he was Plastic Man.
Yes, the Marvel version of Plastic Man. So he was
still walking weird. Yeah.
I'm not... Okay, let's talk through all the cameos. Then you have Lashana Lynch as Captain Marvel of this universe.
I did like her.
I was fine with her. I wasn't a huge fan.
I couldn't figure out who she was, though, until I came home.
Right.
I did not know she was Captain Marvel.
And then you had Haley Atwell as Captain Carter. That's right.
So British British Captain
Yeah, well,
America.
there is a Captain Britain. That's why I got confused for a second.
I liked Haley Atwell, although when she said that famous line,
I could do this all day. Yeah.
I feel like they should have said, okay, that's good. Let's do another take. All right, say it with a little bit more emotion. Yeah, like.
So Haley Atwell, then you had Patrick Stewart coming back as Charles Xavier, i.e. Professor X.
Yep.
But this time at least comic book accurate with his wheelchair.
In a bumper car.
Yep, that's right. In his floating bumper car.
In a floating bumper car.
You had Baron Mordo as one of the members of the Illuminati, which is fine. He's okay. I mean, fine.
Yeah.
And then you also had Black Bolt, which was interesting. I mean, it was an interesting way to go for them to go, which again now confirms. So this now confirms in the MCU. You've got the Inhumans with the Terrigen Mist. You've got Fantastic Four, and you've got X-Men all introduced in this movie.
Can I just ask why? To me, this seemed, you're better at this than I am. This seemed like a hodgepodge of people. Like, one Fantastic Four, Captain Marvel, British Captain America.
Yeah.
And the real Professor X, and then Black Bolt. Black Bolt is an Inhuman, right?
That's right.
Well, what is this? Like, just kind of like they just chose like someone from for like the UN Security Council, one from each group?
So what they have is in the comics, there was the organization is there. It's called the Illuminati. It is that organization.
Oh.
And they're the organization that kind of, you're right, is like the UN Security Council, right?
All right.
For all of the super-powered people. But what I didn't like about if they had just stopped the cameos then and there, I would have been absolutely fine with it. I would have thought that was wonderful. And I would have said, let's call it a day and move on. And, you know, if you need to play around with someone, do it with Baron Mordo. Because at least he makes sense for Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
What they did, though, was then they have a fight sequence where Mr. Fantastic and all these guys fight with Wanda. And she summarily and with no effort decimates them all. And not just decimates, she actually kills them. Right?
Yeah. It's more accurate than decimate, but point taken.
Very, very, very savagely, right? Like you literally see her blow up Black Bolt's mind. She crushes Captain Marvel under rubble. She cuts Captain Carter in half with the shield.
The vibranium.
The problem is that
that's very uncharacteristic. That's very uncharacteristic for a Marvel film, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's it just seemed you introduce some of the most powerful characters and superheroes. Forget it, even if they're not powerful, they're really famous and important superheroes in the MCU, and to have them die off so unceremoniously and so quickly, it seems wrong and very meaningless. Like their deaths in all of this seemed very meaningless.
Wow, Pete.
And in
this really hit you hard. This really
it did.
Professor Stewart as well. Yeah.
Professor X dies. All of them die. It's not like they get incapacitated. No, they all die, which means that universe loses 5 or 6 of the most important superheroes of that universe, right? So for a franchise,
is Wanda Maximoff really, like, in the comics?
Yeah,
I mean, it's at a time it was kind of like 5 against 1, right? Is Wanda Maximoff supposed to be so powerful?
So I don't know her current lore, but when I was, the last thing I read was that Wanda Maximoff has such great power. What she was able to do was she killed basically every mutant on the planet. Not all of them, obviously some survived, but still that was the House of M storyline, is she basically goes, or I can't remember, maybe it's not House of M. Whatever. It's, she basically decimates the entire planet and reduces the population of all mutants by like 80% or something like that. It's insane. So I think she's always been powerful, but I think the difference is that we've never seen her do this, even in the comics.
Yeah.
And that's why it seems very wrong. And forget about whether it's right or wrong in this MCU franchise overall. we have not seen any characters or any heroes die. We've seen some bad guys die, and the ones who have died, the heroes who have not died in a meaningless way and for nothing, right? Think of all the character deaths we've experienced. Most of them were because of Thanos, right?
Some of the click.
You see Tony Stark die, you see Heimdall die, you see Loki die. All these people who die doing something important on a much grander scale than this 5-minute fight showcased.
Yeah.
Right? And it just seems it seemed very inconsistent, wrong, like there's massive cognitive dissonance, and it cast a really bad pallor over the rest of the movie for me. Right? And that's not what you want out of cameos. When you see a cameo, you just want to be like, oh my God, that's Mr. Fantastic. Great. I hope to see him in the MCU in his own movie, and that's it.
Can I suggest? I mean, this hit you harder than it hit me, but my sense was, and I don't say this like facetiously, but I kind of felt like they made these cameos a little bit tongue in cheek, like they weren't really serious.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, I'm not disrespecting John Krasinski or Haley Atwell, for example, but they kind of miscast people a little bit so that when they died off, you didn't say like, oh, he was an amazing Reed Richards. Now we can never see Reed Richards in this universe. You know, like, oh, Captain Carter was so amazing. We really want a standalone Haley Atwell film. It's kind of, I felt that they almost intentionally kind of miscast people just a little bit so that it would be something that you'd say like, wow, that's John Krasinski as Reed Richards. But then when he died, you're kind of like, whoa, like that's a big death. But you didn't feel like, oh, I really loved him. I wanted to see him in a standalone film, and I wondered how he was going to be in Fantastic Four. That's kind of my sense, is that they almost intentionally.
I actually think you're on the money. I think you're on the money, actually, because, you know, the more I thought about it yesterday, the more I thought about it now, and, you know, hearing you say that. So I think they're doing that for one of two reasons, right? Yeah. And I think it's because that'll allow them to recast in this current MCU the way they want to, because obviously, you know, I mean, Patrick Stewart's almost 90, or he's in his 90s. Like, he can't play Professor X for the next 20 years, right? Yeah. And hopefully John Krasinski comes back. I like him. He was one of the guys that I fan casted in the back in the day for Fantastic Four. And I hope that, you know, they have Emily Blunt come in as Mrs. Fantastic, Sue Storm. But having said that, that uniform, that outfit didn't look great. It didn't gel for me. Yeah. And you're right. And like, it to the point where I was just like, you know what? Him dying does allow them to reformulate his look. Yeah. Whether it's a new character or not, I hope it's not, because I do like him. There was something a little off, and you're absolutely right. It was the beard with the uniform and his hair. It just, something didn't feel, it felt like a discount Reed Richards. Yeah.
I don't think they were trying to make it like, you know, I don't think they're trying to, I don't know what the word is, like, not a farce.
I agree. I don't think that was their intent, but that's how I came out of it, because, and I think it was because, you know, in other Marvel movies, when we see cameos, they're either blink and you miss it cameos, or they're very quick, lighthearted quips, and then they're out. Yeah. You don't see interaction with cameo characters. Yeah. Right. And by all means, all 5, 6 of these are some of the most powerful humans and mutants and superpowered heroes in the universe. Yeah. Like, if it were 1-on-1, I could see that happening, but it was 1-on-5. And I get that you want to show that Wanda is really strong, but, you know, these are also 5 of the strongest, powerful people on the planet as well. So, you know, they'd put up more of a fight than this. Yeah. So I don't know. It's just, it felt that way. It certainly felt a little disingenuous to me. Yeah. And I think that leads me into one of the maybe main problems I had with this is, for me, this movie kind of seemed like a platform to introduce other franchises for the future.
A bridge.
Especially with those
bridge.
cameos, because now everyone's going to be thinking of Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be thinking of X-Men. Everyone's going to be thinking of Inhumans. Everyone is going to be thinking of Captain Marvel 2. And, how Lashana Lynch is going to be playing into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, it seemed like, it felt like it was a bit of a hodgepodge of story elements. And then, for example, the Wanda storyline, like, I think that could have ended in her TV series. And I know that it makes sense that she's the villain, right? But forget about the WandaVision TV show. The last 10 years in the movies, she's only been a good guy, right? And we were introduced to her as a bad guy. She immediately understands that she wasn't right to be a bad guy. She becomes a good guy. She trains with the Avengers. She fights along Captain America. She is an Avenger in every way, shape, or form. And then all of a sudden, after WandaVision, she does like this quick heel turn, and it's a really quick heel turn. So it's not, that seemed like it was a little too much of a jerky maneuver for me.
I think the heel turn for me was maybe justified, except for the fact that, as someone pointed out in the movie itself, like, hey, if you want to go to another universe and be the mom to your kids, that means you've got to basically rub out. Yeah, you've basically got to kill another you. And that person's going to feel how you feel now. Like, it doesn't really make sense. It's not like you've got 2 orphan kids out there and you're trying to get to them. You're basically saying, hey, you're going to replace yourself. How is that better? Like, net, maybe you in this universe is better, but you in that universe is worse off. So you're not actually changing anything. And I think that's the logic that really kind of got me. It would have been different if she was trying to bring her kids back or get to her kids, or there was something that, she was trying to, get and make the pie bigger. But the fact that it was going to be kind of like no gain, irrespective of how it happened, didn't really sit well with me. Although to be fair, I thought that she did about as good as you can do with the material. And again, the hard part of this film, it's Doctor Strange. We're limited as to, what kind of domestic terror threats we can have. I thought that the overall storyline was actually pretty decent. And I liked it. To be honest, I thought it was pretty good. My problems were, if I have some criticisms.
Please, yes.
There's a lot of CGI. Of CGI. And it's very good because it's Marvel, but there's just a lot. And you've just got to be willing to kind of put up with that. I thought kind of in the opening scene, it was a little bit, it was just like a little bit juvenile or comical. You've got kind of this monster with one big eye. It just didn't seem like a serious monster. And it wasn't, I'm still not clear.
It was a comic throwback, though. It was a comic.
Oh, really? Nah.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't clear, like, how this thing got there, why it was there. I thought it was a little bit like, is this really going to be a serious film? Like, I was just kind of turned off at the beginning, but then it kind of like captivated me. I thought Strange did a great job, Cumberbatch. I thought that, to be honest, all the everyone I thought was cast in a pretty good way. But when you look at the cast, it's very, very small. Cumberbatch, Olsen, Ejiofor, right? Mordo, Benedict Wong, Gomez, Rachel McAdams, and that's it.
Yeah, primary cast is small, but
when you looked at the end credits,
we see so many versions of them.
Yeah, when you looked at the end credits, there's 12,000, all numbers approximate, graphic design people, and there's 5. Actors. It's.
I think that's a problem endemic to
we're getting away from live
this
action,
is
you know?
a problem endemic to this phase of the Marvel universe. So, the first 2-3 phases were really grounded in quote unquote reality, as in superheroes that weren't really based exclusively, or their powers weren't based exclusively on VFX, I mean, Captain America punches. He doesn't have, laser beams or, any mystical energy coming out of him. So I get it. I know what you mean, but I think that, again, if you saw the first one and if you remember the first one, they do it well enough that it's not such a crazy thing. I thought, for example, I think the end of Shang-Chi was a little more egregious. I thought that CGI was like even more so, because you were not just fighting. You didn't just have CGI like lasers going around everywhere. You had CGI monsters and CGI fight sequences. So I think that was a little bit more egregious in my opinion.
But are you excited about where we go with the multiverse? Because now Spider-Man kind of introduced it a little bit, where we saw other Spider-Men, right, and rogues come into Earth 616. Now we're traveling to other places. It seems like it's on, right? We're gonna now be hopping all over the place, and buckle up.
No, I think what it does is it gives them I think what the multiverse does is that it gives them the license to start introducing other characters in the 616 universe that you wouldn't understand why they weren't involved in the Thanos fight or why they weren't involved in XYZ. So, for example, the Baxter Foundation has been mentioned in the past. I imagine that, the Fantastic Four are introduced somehow in the 616 universe. I don't know. I don't know how the origin is going to happen, but I imagine it's going to be introduced now. And for X-Men, it's the same thing. I imagine that it could be that they can start introducing the X-Men. It could be, that a rogue element from one of the other multiverses comes onto 616 and, does some kind of magic spell or casts something or unleashes the Terrigen Mist and makes everyone mutants. I don't know. I'm being, I'm thinking way out of the box, and I'm trying to just think of some random scenario which could explain it. With the Inhumans, at least we know they could have been here all this time because they've got their base on the moon and we don't know about that. Fine, that can kind of be explained away, kind of like the Eternals were explained away.
Yeah.
But I expect now that the idea has been, or let's say the seed has been planted, right? We've always thought about it. We've always wondered, especially since Disney acquired Fox. I think now we're going to start, now that the seeds have been actually planted in the MCU, I imagine we're going to start thinking about people who are, about how they're going to actually integrate these families and these stories into our universe.
So either there's going to be a lot more jobs at MCU, or everyone is going to completely lose their negotiating leverage, because if your contract demands are too high, forget it. We've got 615 other U's that we can cast. And
you don't
like it, Reed Richards? You don't like it, Reed Richards? Hey, Pete, forget it. I'll get another Pete.
Yeah.
Ethan?
Yeah,
forget it. We'll just get another Ethan,
Look, I don't
I'm just kidding. You can't be replaced, buddy.
I don't know if Marvel would hire John Krasinski for a cameo as Fantastic Four, as Reed Richards.
Yeah.
I think that they have probably already cast him for other movies going forward.
It could also be. I mean, if Marvel is really clever, which they are, this could also just be like a screening, like a testing. Say, hey, let's just throw 4 people up there. Let's see what
just be that.
Let's see what the reaction is. They say, oh, people like John Krasinski at Reed Richards. Done. We'll just say this is our plan all along. They don't like him? He died.
It was in
harm.
another another universe. Yeah. Look, I agree. That's certainly one way they could. I'm just saying, but that's my point is if it were anyone else who wasn't someone in the running, I could see that. Right? But like John Krasinski's name has been tossed about as being someone in the running for ages now. Yeah. Right? Like it's always been heavily rumored that he was going to be it. So it kind of made sense. Like it would make sense for them to hire him. It wouldn't make sense for them to hire him and then, pull the rug out underneath us and hire somebody else to do the main job, as it were. Right? Unless maybe they wanted him all along and he said, look, I don't want to commit to 10 movies. I don't want to commit to 5 movies. And they were like, fine, but at least come and do a cameo for one movie. Yeah. And that too, just as a cameo, you'll be in our studios for like 2 days, 3 days tops, and then you're out. Right. So, cause I think that was very well, that secret was relatively well kept, right? Like everyone saw Patrick Stewart on the set. So everyone was expecting Professor X. But then also everyone knows now, like we're not going to expect him to reprise his role as Professor X in our universe because again, how could we? Right? It's just physically impossible for him to continue playing this role.
So tell me, Pete, what are you or are you not excited about after watching Doctor Strange Mom? Like, are you excited for a new standalone Doctor Strange? Are you excited to get back to Thor, Love and Thunder? Are you looking forward? Where are you standing on MCU that's exciting you or not exciting you?
So I am excited for Thor, of course. I think Thor 3 really revitalized the character and I think really revitalized that franchise. So I'm looking forward to Thor 4.
Okay. And
in terms of going forward, am I super keen on Doctor Strange 3 at this stage? Actually, no.
Oh.
Not super, super keen, but only, I think with time I'll get back into it. I'm not super enthused about it. I am very keen on a Fantastic Four movie coming up.
Oh, really?
I'm very...
Really?
So Fantastic Four, in terms of Marvel, was the first superhero family. They were the first superhero comics released by the Marvel brand. And so I have a very special place in my heart for the Fantastic Four because I give them a lot of respect. They really were the first. And also in terms of the movies, the first Fantastic Four movie way back in the day wasn't horrendous. I mean, it wasn't great, but I mean, especially compared to today's movies, but like in the scheme of, superhero movies of the time, it wasn't bad. We got to see Chris Evans. We got to see, Jessica Alba. And I guess Chiklis played,
Michael Chiklis.
I think Chiklis played, Mr.
The rock guy. The rock guy.
The thing.
Yeah.
So, we got to see that, and Eoin Grufford was fine. He wasn't anything special. But I didn't mind that movie so much. I thought they were quite faithful in terms of their origin story. And honestly, if there's looking further ahead, if there's anyone who could be the main bad guy for this phase, there's 2 potentials right now. One is Kang the Conqueror, who we saw in Loki.
Mm-hmm.
And the second, who I'm really hoping for, is Doctor Doom.
Oh, what about, what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for kind of like a more neutral bad guy. And I go back to the TVA, right? The Time Variance Authority that we saw in Loki.
Yeah.
I want, just like Thanos wasn't really a bad guy, right? He wasn't evil. Mm-hmm. He just had his own vision. I'd like someone from the TVA, to come in. It would be good. It can't be, but someone like Samuel L. Jackson, like someone who comes in. The Rock, he can't either. Someone like that who comes in. It can't be Luke Wilson or Owen Wilson. He's too nice. Someone who just comes in and starts kicking ass and saying, you know what? I'm going to clean up this timeline. I'm going to start putting everyone in the universe they belong to.
That's Kang the Conqueror.
It is?
You've exactly identified Kang the Conqueror.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's
we're both right.
Exactly him.
Really?
Kang the Conqueror showed up in the last 2 episodes, I think, or in the last episode of Loki. I cannot for the life of me remember the actor. He is the head of the TVA, and his idea is that this is how you maintain balance, and that's what all of those guys were doing his bidding to maintain the alliance, right? And he said at the end, because Sylvie, the alternate Loki, wanted to kill him, and he said, if you kill me, other Kangs the Conquerors will come, and they are not benevolent. I won that war against all of there was like a multiversal war of Kang the Conquerors, and the one that we saw in Loki, he won. That's why he created the TVA, to keep everyone in check and keep a balance. And now that he's dead, we're going to see other versions of the Kang the Conqueror fight it out to be the top spot again.
Should I be watching Loki?
If you haven't seen it, I recommend it. I like the show a lot. It's not a must subscribe in my opinion, but it has moments that are so good, and it really highlights how good a villain Loki was in the movies. There are really moments of where you empathize with everything that he's going through.
I probably have to see that.
I highly recommend.
I mean, I saw like the first few episodes of Loki. I can't remember what distracted me, but I probably have to go back. Now that Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out, is Loki going to appear in that? That's the next big MCU we've got, right?
So yes, so canonically, actually, I can't even say that canonically, but in as far as Thor is concerned, Loki is dead. Right? And not dead like Loki pretending to be dead. He's dead, because Thanos did kill him. Now, what happened is that another Loki from a previous timeline exists in the TVA timeline, but that exists outside of all timelines. So we don't know where Loki is in the movie MCU.
We actually don't know, right?
We don't know. In the TV series, he's still at the TVA. And that's where we last saw him.
Okay, so let's wrap it up for Doctor Strange 2 Mom, Multiverse of Madness. What is your rating? I feel like you're saying this is a wait for it.
Yeah, this is a watch it on. For me, it's a watch it on Disney Plus when it inevitably gets there in 6 to 8 weeks.
I'm going to say this is a must see. And I mean, the reason I say it is that it is a blockbuster, and I think it's important to go see it on the big screen and just kind of experience everything that this film has. But I'll also caveat in the fine print that if you do wait, it won't be the end of the world. But if you're going to go to the cinema, this is definitely a cinematic film that, it does have a lot of visual effects. And I think the visual effects are obviously better captured on a big screen than even regardless of what kind of home entertainment system you have. It's not a drama. Dramas you can kind of watch at home and you get the same effect. This is really a lot of special effects, a lot of action. Go watch it in the cinema. I think it's absolutely worth your money. I don't think, unlike Pete, I'm sorry to say, I don't think you'll walk away disappointed. I don't think you'll walk away saying, wow, let's get in line. I want to watch it immediately again. But I think you'll say, that was pretty good, and you'll have some good stuff to talk about with whoever you see it with. So
I agree. I think you're absolutely right. I think I'm disappointed because I'm more of a special case, I'd imagine. I do agree fully with you. You cannot replicate the visual effects at home and the sound effects at home. It's got a great creepy vibe to it. It's like I said, I think it's low-key horror. You're not going to be able to enjoy it as much or get that same emotional rush from it.
Can you give me an example of a scene that you thought was wow? And just kind of like visually the graphics or something, and a scene that you thought was like, that was nothing.
So the scene where they escaped from Wanda where America and Stephen Strange escape from Wanda and then go through like 6 different multiverses or 6 different universes. One of them where they're paint, one of them, I don't even remember all of them. I thought that was the wow sequence of the movie.
Yes. Can I give you my wow sequence? I'll give you my wow.
Yeah.
When Strange is fighting manic depressive Strange in this ugly haunted house.
Right.
And they take like the music notes off the sheet paper.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
I thought, to me, to be honest, I don't think this was like Matrix level iconic, but I have to say, from a graphics perspective, the amount of work and detail that went into taking every note off the sheet music and throwing them back and forth at each other with the music coordinated, I thought was extremely well done.
Yeah.
Although I can't say, like, for me, it wasn't like the Matrix and all the different bullets flying, but I'm like, that was pretty cool. Like, that took someone a lot of work. Someone stayed up late working on that.
I actually made a mental note, and thank God you reminded me. That was the Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange Battle of the Bands moment.
Yeah, the Battle of the Bands. It was the Battle of the Bands. And what's one that like fell flat for you? What's kind of a scene that fell flat for you?
Honestly, I think that whole sequence in the fight scene with Mordo. You know, where he's trying to escape from Baron Mordo in the Illuminati? While the other superheroes are getting decimated by Wanda.
Yeah.
I thought that was very meh. In terms of, everything, I thought that was just fine.
Yeah. I kind of thought when they were running away from Wanda Maximoff, they went into this kind of tunnel.
Oh, yeah, the water under the river.
Yeah, for me, this was just, that wasn't really doing anything for me. I mean, that's where you get kind of more of the slasher film vibe.
Yes.
But for me,
exactly.
I felt like that was just a very slow scene, and it wasn't really doing anything for me. Usually like for Marvel, they try to wow you with, the designs or the background or the something, or there's humor or something happens. And I just felt like that was like, wow, this is just like a very long tunnel, like how many times does it go left? How many times does it go right? This is very repetitive.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Did you laugh at all during this movie? I mean, some of the, were there any really good jokes?
No, there were a couple of standout funny things. I like Wong. Yeah. I really liked Wong. I liked some of the stuff he did. And then there was something, but I'm having a hard time placing where I laughed.
I laughed when they first were introduced to America and they went out to like this pizza place. There was a time that Strange was having a conversation with like America, and I thought like a fan came up, right?
Yeah, and she's like, "Do you mind if I film this?"
Yeah. And he was basically having like 2 conversations at the same time, and I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, because he's like, she asked, "Do you mind if I film this?"
Yeah.
America asks something, and Wong asks something, and he goes, "Yes, no, yes," or "Yes, yes, no," or something like that. Yeah. He's finishing 3 conversations at one go. Yeah. No, there were definitely moments of levity. It had its it had its hallmark Marvel quips.
Not as funny though, I have to say, as I remember films to be, Because
certainly there have been other ones that were funnier, don't get me wrong, but what I'm saying is that, it certainly still at least had moments of levity.
Yeah.
Whereas, some of them have had more, but I don't think this was, lacking in that department either.
Yeah. Okay, so Pete.
Well, there you have it.
There you have it. Well done.
Ethan says go watch it in the cinema now. I say go watch it on Disney Plus when you get a chance. And that's where we landed with Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness.
Mom. All right. Next MCU film is Thor: Love and Thunder, right?
Thor: Love and Thunder. I think that comes out in June, maybe July.
All right. Pete, been a pleasure. We'll see you on the flip side. We got more to discuss next episode, okay?
Indeed. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.